Hi there, and welcome to Postscript. I'm John Peterson from the Arlington Institute, and it's great to have you with us. This is an interview, and we've got a chance to talk to Jeff Witzeman, who's going to be with us on the 19th of October here at Berkeley Springs at Transition Talks. Jeff, how are you? Nice to see you.
Great, John. Thank you for having me.
Well, you're checking in from Southern California somewhere. Out here, we've got California kind of weather in the 90s almost or something, but we're making it. So talk a little bit about for people who might not be familiar with you. Just a little bit, set this up so that they get an idea who you are.
Yeah, so about 7 or 8 years ago, my wife was diagnosed with cancer. She was told she had to have her bladder removed, followed by chemo and radiation, 50% chance of survival. And instead, we went to Germany, treated her cancer naturally with focused heat, IV nutrients, and ozone. And in 30 days, her cancer was completely gone. So, okay, that's great. So then I wrote an article about it. The article went viral. Film crews came to me saying, we have to make a film about this.
Yeah.
And they all pulled away because they realized it would be suicide to go against the medical establishment. So I made a film about cancer being killed naturally, and that set me on a course to learning that everything we are told is a lie. And the lie is there to keep those in power and to make money. And we have not had the tools or the resources to be able to not only stand up for ourselves, but to reclaim everything they've taken from us until now. And for whatever reason, if you want to call it the universe, God, whatever, there is a flood of light, information, and power that we now have available to us to stand up against the bullies, to reclaim what's ours, and also reconnect with our identities, with who we are as spiritual beings connected to God. So I'm very optimistic about where we're headed. And, you know, the last 7 or 8 years for me have just been on this journey of being an evolutionary scout for how do we reverse what's been done to us and how do we get the real information.
Yeah, well, this is great because as you probably know, here at the Arlington Institute, we're interested in facilitating this transition to a new world. And that happens through the emergence of a new human, from our point of view, that then translates into a new world because they see themselves and they see the world in a really different way. And so we're very interested in finding, and we're really looking forward to having you with us because I would argue that there are bubbling up, just kind of like what you said, all over the place, these new kind of capabilities, ideas, inventions, call it what you'd like, perspectives that all are giving you the clear opportunity to go in a whole new path for the species. And at the same time, there's a lot of money and a lot of sophisticated stuff trying to drive you down the other track. And so what's really fun about what you're going to talk about is that this is about whole new ideas about what's down the track of kind of human empowerment. And so talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so what I learned from my wife getting cancer and then getting healed from cancer, and by the way, she died 5 years later. The cancer came roaring back and took her life. But we learned something, and I say we because I think she's still with me. All right, she's just in a different form. But what we learned from that is that holistic, getting rid of toxins and filling the body with natural substances, this works. It works to kill cancer. But unless a person deals with the emotional issues underneath the cancer, then no amount of holistic is going to eventually solve the problem. So this started me on this path to, okay, in my own life, I've got to get right emotionally so that I can fully, get the toxins, emotional toxins as well as physical toxins out of my life, and then fill myself with all the right information. And so for me, it started with health, but then it went into law because I realized that unless we have a justice system or a legal means to get back what's been taken from us, then we're just on the internet talking, right? Then we're just on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, and we're just spouting all the same victim energy that everybody spouts, right? Which is, oh no, look what they're doing to us again. So I went on this path, and the first thing that I had to address was that my birth certificate was sold on the bond market without my consent. And there is a way for me to go back in and say, you know what, I don't consent to you selling that birth certificate. And by the way, that account with my name on it is now worth $150 million. I want it back. I want access to that account. And what they came back to me with was, okay, we'll give you access to that account, but you only get it in the form of credit. Okay, so you can use the credit in there to do what you need, to discharge debt, to work with the IRS to get the money back, a number of ways. Now, nobody ever gives you all the direct answers, right? So it's always this circuitous route of trial and error, and hopefully getting as much information as you can from trusted sources that have actually done it themselves. And I've been lucky enough to work with these people. And so the first thing, besides acknowledging the birth certificate, was taking title to myself so that now I own the all caps name Jeffrey Allen Witzeman. The government doesn't own it anymore. I own it. That's where it starts, because if I have title to myself, they have no power over me. All their jurisdictions, all their statutory laws, meaningless. I have a passport with 4 stars on it, which means do not detain status. So if any rogue cop comes up to me and tries to enforce some statutory law that doesn't apply to me, I give him the card, he scans it, he goes, okay, be on your way, sir. Now that's power right there. And, that's the kind of information I now want to share with the world. So if they want it, they can take advantage of it, and they no longer have to be a victim to the system. So I'll just stop there. And
yeah, this is wonderful. Yeah, this is wonderful because it's emblematic across the board in many other dimensions of these new concepts and new ideas and new realities that you're finding. You could, easily make the case in subtle energy kind of therapies and, a variety of marvelous other financial kind of things as well. There's all kinds of stuff that's just bubbling up with cool new ideas that are the framework of, they'll come together here in a while, and they're the framework, a platform for this new world. And so it's really cool what you're doing, and we're looking forward to having you with us. What else you been thinking about?
yeah, so just to further the idea of these bullies that come at us, one of the classic bullies in our world is the IRS. And it's a lot of people have seen them as a bully, which a lot of times they manifest themselves as a bully. But the good news about the IRS is they can be our friends, and they can actually be the justice system that no court could ever be. So they have power, as we know from Al Capone and Martha Stewart and numerous people. If they get you for tax evasion, that's it. You're kind of done. You can commit, all the crimes Al Capone did. They can't get him for that, but they can get him for tax evasion. So not only that, but the IRS is actually helping me to get back the money that was taken from my birth certificate. So what people don't know is that if you operate your business out of an irrevocable trust, then when you 1099 all of your expenses at the end of the year, the IRS then gives you a tax credit for everything you spent. So now it's like you're getting everything for free for the rest of your life. You're not spending, you're getting back exactly what you're paying. So it's really looking at a lot of these things differently. And, not only is the IRS our friend, but the courtroom can be our friend when we know how to dismantle or unmask the judges that are presenting themselves as the law when they really aren't. They're just gatekeepers running a business, selling a bond on every case that comes to their court. And there's so many criminal laws that they are breaking. And one of them is that they make money off every case that comes to court, and they never report it to the IRS. And attorneys, right? And attorneys are now realizing, oh my God, we can file a 1099-A form, which means that this is income that was never claimed. And then we can file a UCC document stating that this actually happened. Then we can present it to the judge and say, Judge, you never acknowledged the money you made. You are guilty of tax evasion. Now, Judge, how do you want to rule on this case that I'm bringing before you? Yeah. And people have done that. And that's how they've gotten people out of jail. That's how they've reversed all sorts of judgments against them. And so, there's an unmasking going on. We're exposing everything. And that's why I'm so optimistic. People that say that we're just going to get the same old are people that their eyes have not been opened, because in the last 4 years, there's been a radical transformation in the world we live in. And, things are only going to get better.
Yeah, and the other side is certainly feeling this and are doing everything that they can to hang on going into this the next 2 years or something. I follow a guy named Martin Armstrong, who's an economist down in Florida, who's got a computer program he calls Socrates that has never been wrong in 40 years in terms of being anticipating things in the future. You might be interested in knowing that it's all based upon isolating the cyclical characteristics of different aspects of the physical reality that we live in. And everything cycles, everything has a periodicity to it, some longer, some shorter. And if you stack up enough of those things, and he's got 72 of them now, I think it is. So you've got climate and international relations and politics and markets, finance, whatever, all those kinds of things. And like I say, it's always spot on. What he's saying, what his machine has been saying for the last 40 years, literally, is between next year, 2025 and 2027, there's going to be a global civil war, which will be a planet-wide upwelling against uprising against the governments writ large. And the people on the other side of the equation know that that's happening, and they see it. The writing is on the wall, and so they're throwing everything they can against the wall to see what sticks here before it happens. So we're looking at, another 4, 5, 6 months here going into the end of the year. That's going to be pretty interesting,
I should say. And we all know that the dollar has to collapse and the market has to collapse because they've run out of options to prop it up. And we also know that they don't want a transition of power. So the last thing they want is November 5th to happen. So they're going to try to stop the election any way they can. So, I get from my sources that sometime in late October, they're going to obviously try to stop this whole thing, keep it from going. And there's going to be some temporary pain, but for those that are ready for it, it's all good because we have to move to asset-backed currency in order to pull ourselves away from the power of the old guard, the Rothschild banking, fractional reserve banking. And so asset-backed currency, I'm very excited about that direction. And so we really are in that period right now of preparing for being able to be more self-sustaining. And this is the future anyway, is self-governance, self-sustaining, not being dependent on any power that limits us.
Yeah.
So it's all headed in a good direction.
So, Jeff, do you have any sense that there's all kinds of these reports about the white hats and the black hats or the deep state or whatever? Do you have any sense on the kind of positive side of the equation, what kind of things are going on there, or what sense of organization or anything like that?
Yeah, good question. I see evidence that there is a loss of power on the dark side, and there is a continual momentum building of the white hats or whatever you want to call them. And the evidence for me is all the things that they promised in 2022 haven't come to pass. In fact, it's gone the opposite direction. So the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, they haven't gained any traction. Why? Jacob Rothschild died. Why? Did he suddenly lose access to his adrenochrome or to whatever was keeping him alive? The royals are all getting cancer.
Yeah.
What happened to their health care? The BRICS nations continue to make connections and protect sovereignty of nations that they're with. So that's, another evidence of them pulling away from the old cabal that was there. And then finally, this last week with RFK Jr., one of the card-carrying members of the 13 Illuminati bloodline families, joined forces with Trump, who is the chosen one from the White Hat military organization, as far as I can perceive. And so that for me, that was the I rest my case moment, where it's like, wow, okay, so even the Illuminati know that if they want to stay alive, they've got to join forces with the new group that's coming.
Yeah, but at the same time, the Kennedy family is not very happy with Bobby.
They are not. They are not. And the Kennedy family represents those that still have a shred of power and can still make life miserable for us. Hence, everything you're saying about this civil war coming up, because they're not going to go down without a fight. And the only reason we got RFK Jr. is that he wants to save his soul, and he wants out of what he's been a part of. And but he's the minority. The majority are still there going, oh, well, we lost Jacob Rothschild and the royals, but we still have all of our technology to screw up the planet. So let's screw up as much of it as we can. So there's going to be a fight. I'm with you on that.
So talk a little bit about what you're going to talk about when you come here on the 19th of October.
Yeah, when I come to speak, I want to expose all the lies we've been told, and I want to give people the nuts and bolts of what they can do to reclaim their lives. And it goes from everywhere of the steps of taking title to oneself, operating out of a trust, learning about the fraud of banking and how to discharge debt and to put them in their place. And then finally, the most important thing that I think a lot of people would poo-poo is, what is the emotional process to finally shed this mortal coil and to join forces with our spirit selves, with our
Yeah.
real identities. And unless we get that emotional, spiritual component, it's going to be hard to
Yeah.
do all the other things, because that's like climbing Mount Everest if you don't have the right tools. If you have the right tools, it's just time. It's just time.
Wow.
Otherwise,
That's
we got to
very
get
well,
that in place first.
very well said. It's a systems problem, and it has, physical and emotional and spiritual and different kind of component and aspects to it. And all of them got to work together or the system doesn't work well. And so there is a clear mind shift that needs to happen. I had an old friend, Willis Harmon, who used to run an organization called the Institute of Noetic Science out in the Bay Area. And he wrote a book years ago called Global Mind Changer. And the argument essentially was that you're never going to get change in the kind of the physical or the tangible aspects of reality, institutions, governments, education, whatever it is, until you get a mind shift that where you see yourself and you see the world in a whole different kind of way. And so that's what's up. And an integral part of this big change that we all see happening. And we're really looking forward to having you with us. And again, for those of you who are listeners, Jeff will be with us on the 19th of October here in Berkeley Springs at our transition talks, which we do once a month. You can find more information at transitiontalks.org. And if you're not in the neighborhood that weekend, you can still check in with live stream. And we have people from all over the world that do that. And so we'll encourage you to come. Anything else you want to leave with us today here, Jeff?
Well, this is like the beginning, the foundation of reclaiming our life. And then from there, what's really fun is when you start to get the health component back. Because if you're not being lied to anymore about where real health comes from, there are so many options out there, whether it's energy healing or methylene blue or parasite removal, that honestly, I'm 65 and I'm in better health today than I was at 40 by far. I'm able to do more things than I did at 40. And, it's really encouraging to know that the old numbers of how long we're going to live don't apply anymore,
Right.
because we have so many options available
Yeah.
to us.
Are you going to talk about a little bit about that when you're here? Won't you please?
Absolutely. We're going to throw that into the mix.
Yeah, that's because that's a revolutionary kind of change. It all goes to the role of how you imagine in your mind and your imagery and intentions and all kinds of stuff that are in it, integral part of that. So Jeff Witzeman, thanks so much. It was fun to have you and chat with you here today on Postscript, and we appreciate it. And we're looking forward to having you here in Berkeley Springs at Transition Talks on the 19th of October here in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia, our little resort town in the Appalachian Mountains, just 100 miles from Washington and Baltimore. So thanks again. Be very well, and we'll look forward to having you here.
Thank you, John.